Well, hello, welcome to this week's I.T.L. This week the weather has been nasty, just nasty. From what I understand, this morning we actually had a mixture of snow and sleet from what the wife told me. I wasn't up about that time of that morning. Not this morning, but I got to deal with a little bit of ice though. But yeah. I figured you know what I'll do. And on top of taking up off my e-cigarette now. And enjoy the e-cigarette. Don't worry, it's not coming to your homes, you know. Oh boy. I figured I'd sit down this week and actually talk to you, my viewers, actually. BandetNev actually brought up a good question, interesting question to me in a way, on last week's video. And it basically, let's go ahead and do the easy, quick one first. Okay, Jim Houston he grew up in West Middlesex. I've done a few videos for him. Hope I'll do more for him here in the future, or whenever the weather decides to give up on us a little bit. As far as the respirator I use for the welding, I actually have one. Don't know where I put it after I got done welding. I'm still looking for it. I know I had. I put it. So I put it up and then I forgot where I put it basically. But basically, you can get them basically anywhere, like Home Depot, Lowe's, or anything. I like to order mine online, like Amazon or eBay. I like Amazon better than eBay's more. I mean, first place, there's no bidding on it. You have to worry about bidding on it. And even the sure buys is you don't know whenever you're going to buy now. You don't know whenever you're going to be getting, because it might be coming from China, or you might be dealing with a middleman. But I like the 3M dual filter respirators, and the reason why I like those is because I can go to like Home Depot, Lowe's, or someplace like that to just pick up the filters for this. And actually, I believe my local hardware store downtown actually even sells respirators for the filters for the 3Ms. And if I remember, I'll go ahead and go through Amazon and leave a link down there, because Jim was actually asking about them. For a quick weld, if I'm just welding for a couple seconds, for a minute or two, I'll go ahead and use those masks you can buy like at the dollar store or whatever. And are they the best? No, not at all. But the respirators is the best way, I think, in my eyes. It really, you don't get that stuff in your lungs. After a few minutes of using the mask style, I mean, they're black, and so it really tells you the respirator, it does a good job. But yeah, let's move on to BandetNev's question. BandetNev actually asked me a question about, because I was mentioning about me picking up the diesel oil fuel for my torpedo heater, and asked me, is there a big difference between like the picking up the fuel at the fuel bays and being a mechanic? Well, that is not an easy question. It isn't, and it isn't in a way. Whenever you go buy fuel, say at Flying J or Hearts or wherever you're going to pick fuel up, it's completely different. It's completely different because all they do is pump the fuel. That's all they do. They pump the fuel, figure out how much. If they're on self-serve, they'll pump the fuel and they'll tell you how much you owe them. You know what I mean? Working as the fueling mechanic, like the job I had, that was my job. That was the title to my job. The trucks would come in. We were trying to think of the name of it. We were a complete shop, actually. We were a terminal. The trucks would come into the shop. I'd fill them up, do a safety check. That's brakes, lights, the oils, liquids. We'll look for anything cracked, loose, broken to get fixed. I mean, it was a complete safety check. That's what it was supposed to be. And I ran, and whenever I started, there was 3 of us, and we ran 3 lanes. One was an express lane. Then eventually they cut down to 2 people, or in 3 lanes. That way you had one that was jumping between the second lane and into the express lane as needed. And then the third, on the third person covering the third lane will jump over to the second lane and finish up the job, get the trucks out if needed. And that worked out well. It can be hairy at times, but it worked out well. Then they cut down to just one, and ran for one for several years. But yet, while we were doing that, doing what we're supposed to do, you know, change light bulbs if it's needed, any type of small repairs could be done in the fuel lanes. Well, we started doing more and more and more clutch adjustments. We started changing brakes. We started changing wheel seals, full services on trailers. Which, I mean, you had to go completely over that trailer to make sure everything's good, greased, everything. I mean, we did quite a bit. I mean, we didn't do full services on the tractors. That's the truck part, for those who don't know. We didn't do the full services on that in the fuel lanes. We would start them sometimes, then hand them to the full service lane with the paperwork. But our shop, even though it could have done the work, most of our trucks were under warranty. So if any type of engine work, major transmission work, it'd be sent out to be covered under warranty. There has been a few times where we had older tractors that we used as yard dogs that would need work, and most mechanics were capable of doing that. But saying that, my job as fuel lane mechanic went from being fuel lane mechanic to being basically on call 24/7 for trucks being broken down on the road. Normally it was at the scales that I had to go to, or at the Flying J truck stop. It wasn't Flying J, it was Truck World truck stop. Then it grew into, they put me on night shift, and in a night shift at that time, there was only two people in the whole building. That was the mechanic on duty and the parts room manager, parts room dude. That was me. That was me for several years, night shift worker. I did everything from tires to the simple thing as light bulbs. I did brake jobs and suspension work, and I mean, I did it. It was me. I was the only one there. I couldn't pass it off to anybody else. There was nobody else to pass it off to. So, I mean, my job being a, quote, fueling mechanic, unquote, really grew. And on top of that, I actually developed, well, actually there was another a beginning mechanic, and I, when we first got there, built a oil recycling machine. To basically, antifreeze recycling machine. Antifreeze you can recycle over and over and over again, with the proper chemicals and the proper treatment. And both of us knew this. And we created this. Now, whenever he left, it was a few years after we created it, I actually modified it even more to do a better, quicker job. And it ran really good. I mean, I was pumping out a lot of recycled antifreeze for the garage. Now, none of this was written down how to operate this machine, or how much of what to use for this. And whenever they lost me, well, I knew they lost the machine too, the ability to recycle. I know we were saving on the company a lot of money doing this. But yeah, whenever they fired me, they hired, I knew of 6 people that was hired to replace me. I was not indispensable, no. I was dispensable, but they had to pay for it. And yes, I was the highest mechanic in the shop, paid mechanic in the shop. I ran the fuel lanes. There was no other mechanic hovering over my shoulders. The only person that was above me was the foreman, and then the shop manager, the utility manager. The foreman, I mean, at the end, when in the beginning there was 3 foremans. Then at the end there was 4. And the foreman came in fourth. He was trouble. And we had one other older foreman out of the original 3 that was trouble too. And they caused trouble. They both caused trouble except for with their buddy pals that they drunk with. But yeah, I mean, I left there. Basically, they canned my butt. There was no reason to can me, and I knew it. I mean, the excuses they used were very flimsy, and they were just they just want to get rid of me because they had changed almost all the mechanics in the shop from the original crew, and I was one of the ones left from the original crew. You could see right through what they're trying to do. So I went ahead and I took it to court. I took it over to court, and I won the case. I won the case, no problem. In fact, the judge asked me if I wanted my job back, and I said absolutely not, because they would just find something later on down the road and try to get rid of me again. Just absolutely not. Because the only reason I took it to court is because the whole time I worked there, and I worked there for 4 or 5 years, and which doesn't seem that long nowadays, but I didn't take vacation at all. I only took 1 or 2 sick days off the whole time, and I had close to a year's vacation built up, and I didn't know it. And they weren't in. They should have paid me back vacation, but they said since they fired me, no. Well, I got that back vacation pay anyway through the courts. So that's why I took it to the court. And once you get something like that on your record, even though they're not supposed to tell you, say, give you black marks, it basically through the industry, it puts you in a negative light. But it was one of my favorite jobs. But yeah, it's an easy question, Nev, and it's a hard question. So it depends on where you work. That was a bad shop to work for. And I'll tell, and a lot of people will know the company name. They still run today as Falcon Transport. Back then it was Compass and Falcon, and I actually worked for GD Leasing. And the GD Leasing was the main company name. And the Compass was the flatbed steel haulers, basically the flatbed trucks, and the Falcons were the vans. Compass was blue, white with blue lettering. Falcon was white with green lettering. That was the day. Nowadays, they got some ugly, putrid blue and green trucks, and they're under Falcon name. But yeah, they're out of Indiana. But yeah, it was a bad experience in ways, but I learned a lot by just doing the job, and I had a couple good mechanics that I worked with, that ended up working with, and we had our good times and we did have our bad times. I hope that kind of helps you out, BandetNev. I hope you see this video. I mean, I know BandetNev's going through some bad times of his own right now, and only thing I can say is I pray for him, and I hope he pulls through everything. But yeah, let's move on to other things. I was going to show me building a copper J-pole antenna for the ham radio. I've got the wire for it, but I have not come across my old copper plumbing that I had. I know I had some put up because I stripped it out of. Actually, I replumbed my parents' house many years ago when Dad was still living, and I saved the old copper piping. It was still good, but what it was is he wanted PEX put in, so I went ahead and put PEX in for him. I'm like, you know, it's a waste of good copper pipe, but if you want to put it in, I'll put it in. That's what he wanted in. But I think the copper piping might have gotten snatched up by somebody and taken to be scrapped. That very well could have been. But yeah, it's like, if I can come across it, I'll go ahead and make it. But it'll have to be put out in the back burner for a while if I gotta buy the pipe. That's just the way things work in my little world. But yeah, another thing is, and I'll try to get, I got pictures on my cell phone, I'll try to show you of me holding it. I got the lights for the goat. They're not as nice as the lights as I had on it. And I'll show you, hold on. This is the light actually that was one of the lights that was actually on the goat. And this one actually still works. It has the 4 LEDs in it. And it's, you can see it's aluminum, it looks kind of chromish. This is heavy duty. This is pretty heavy duty. It's metal. Too bad it leaked to the back on the other one. It made it go bad inside. It corroded everything inside. The ones I got they're all plastic on the outside. I didn't realize they're all plastic. They're really flimsy mount, so they will bounce a teeny bit on heavier bumps, which will be all right. But they put out a nice light. Just as good as these ones did. And these ones put out really nice light. And these are ones that BandetNev actually kind of leaned me towards. I think he had the black ones, and I got the aluminum colored ones. But yeah, the ones I replaced it with, they're not as nice as these, but they were like half the price of these too. Even going through cheap with these, the other ones were like half the price, well, maybe a little bit less. And I'm going to try those out. If they go bad, I'm not out a whole lot of money. It's kind of a trial and error, and I'm hoping that they work out for me. If they don't, these guys will know. But yeah, it does the 4 LEDs on it, as you can see through the pictures I put them up. But yeah, they're already on the bike. They're already focused in. They work really nice in the garage here. And like I said, they actually work just as good as these. Maybe I'll almost fair to say maybe a team it better. Other than whenever I hit the bump, I know it's going to get a little bounciness to it when I hit the big bumps. Whatever, they'll be all right. But yeah, that was one good thing for the goat. Yeah. I have joined what they call the morning net. It's up north a little bit of me. Whenever I can get into it, the guys will actually ask for my call sign and ask me to come in and see if I can get in. And if I can get in, I do it. The weather patterns really makes a difference for me because the signal is kind of weak, hitting 13.5 miles away. I'm still hitting it. It's just not, I'm able to open the repeater up. It's just not a strong, clear signal. So what I do is I'll just say, okay, I'll say how I'm going back, and they'll tell me if it's kind of weak, and I'll say, well, you know what, I'll skip it. I'll just listen in to this week, only today. And they have it 2 to 3 times a week in the morning, and it's kind of cool to be included in something like that. And it's kind of cool to hear other people's what they're doing in their life, because that's what they do. They talk about the weather there, and it's basically an exercise to keep, because everybody will write down different things what other person says, and they'll actually repeat and go on. And it's a way of transmitting information back and forth in an emergency, and I like that. I do like that idea. We used to have something set up like that with the CBs years ago around just our immediate area, and this way, I mean, I can reach out even further with even my little handheld radio, that little HT. So I'm going to be eventually I'll get an outdoor antenna for that, and I will set up my CB antenna again. For my base station, I'll actually put them both together. That way, I mean, in an emergency pinch, I mean, I can broadcast on CB or on the area. It's different wavelengths, channels, and also pick up and broadcast a little bit further distance also with my HT. I think that's a good idea in my eyes, for especially an emergency. Because I mean, just like was it last week or the week before, we had the tornadoes come through. You never know. But yeah, I hope you all have a great week. This is MuzzleMike signing out. 73.